the peace agreement, world government, world religion, and aspirations of socialism in the United States of America are all ongoing fulfillments of Bible prophecy. We will discuss these events and more on today's edition of End of the Age. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with Endtime Ministries. Thank you for joining me on Tuesday's edition of End of the Age. Now, I'm going to be doing a rapid-fire prophecy update today. I've got a lot of subjects to cover, ongoing fulfillment of Bible prophecy. But before I do, I want to talk to you about the 2019 Lawmakers Campaign. And you guys have helped us with this over the years, several years now. And we've subscribed all of the senators, congressmen from every state, from all the governors, all of the movers and shakers in the United States to Endtime magazine. And it's been very influential to many of those people. And it goes to the influential people in society, not just the lawmakers, but like a Sarah Palin, a Glenn Beck, people that have huge audiences, Rush Limbaugh, and now Ben Shapiro, people like that. The guys with Fox News, Sean Hannity, Matt Drudge. You guys know the Drudge Report. So we're trying to subscribe all of them, and we're asking you to help us do that. It's $29 for a subscription of 2 years to Endtime magazine. And what a great resource to get in their hands to help them, to talk to their people, to influence them on what they talk about on their programs and different things, maybe how they make new laws, that we would get them geared back towards the Bible and not away from the Bible, which many of them are. We're trying to influence them as well. So if you'd like to help us, we've already got many states. We've been doing really good, actually. We've got many states that people have called in and said, hey, I want to cover my whole state. It might be 8 or 9, 10 subscriptions. We've had people call in and just do whole states. So if you want to get your state done, check on it. Call in here, 1-800-ENDTIME, and say, hey, I want to subscribe my state to the Lawmakers Campaign and help us get through this. It's very influential. And, maybe you don't have the platform to get to these people, but we can send these magazines to them. And I remember doing it, I think it was the last time we did it, a couple of years ago. And of everybody in Washington that you would know of, through all of the members of Congress, the Speaker of the House, everybody, we only had one person, believe it or not, we only had one person, his office sent a letter that said, don't send us this anymore. Out of all of them, they all kept getting it over the 2 years. And I'm not going to call the guy's name, but they all received it for the full 2 years. And so we're wanting to do it again. That subscription is coming to an end. We want to go ahead and subscribe them again. So if you want to help us with that, what a great effort to reach these people. Very influential people here in the United States. I could call all their names. You'd know them. So help us with that. 1-800-ENDTIME or 1-800-ENDTIME 363-8463 and say, hey, I want to subscribe some people. Go to the Lawmakers Campaign. The people here on the phones can help you, tell you if your state's done or not. If your state's done, do another state. Let's get them all done. And what a great campaign to go on. We've done it for many years, and it's been great, really. So, without further ado, let's get into the rapid-fire prophecy update today, because I'm not going to spend the whole program on just one topic. There's so much going on in the news. One of my research guys that sends me and Irvin stuff basically on a daily basis, he sent me like 3 or 4 pages of different articles that deal with prophecy. I pulled as many and tried to put as many of them in my program today as I could. There's no way I could get to all that. It'd take me 3 or 4 hours to hit every news article. So I'll go through as many as I can, and I built the program around a rapid-fire prophecy update to give you as much information as I can. So let's go. You understand about the peace agreement. It's in the news. We've been talking about it almost on a daily basis. We've got to, because Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, Jason Greenblatt, they're fixing to roll out the deal of the century that Trump's been working on for about 2 years now. Well, they're fixing to roll out that. And it's prophesied in the Bible. If it has the characteristics of the peace agreement, it could be the event that launches us into the final 7 years to the second coming of Jesus Christ. So we talk about it all the time. It could be the peace agreement. We'll just have to see. But there's ongoing fulfillments as we go through this. So the Jerusalem Post reported that the Palestinians and the Jordanians expand an alliance to torpedo Trump's peace plan. So the article states that the Palestinians and the Jordanians have set up a joint council for the administration of the Temple Mount and the holy sites in Jerusalem, and that the first steps were taken only days ago. I'm going to hold here because I don't want this commercial break to cut this in half. But there's a lot of things going on in the Middle East, people that are coming against the peace agreement and people that are very influential that want to push it through. And a lot of it you don't hear about in the news, but a lot of this is going on right now. So this peace deal that's coming up, I mean, we'll have to see, but it could be the one that starts the final 7 years. We'll just have to see what's in it and if it has all the characteristics.
We've seen Bible prophecy fulfilled like never before. From the halls of the United Nations to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, Endtime Ministries continues to reveal the Bible prophecy in the news headlines around the world every day. Whether it's through our broadcast or online at our Jerusalem Prophecy College, your gifts enable us to put vital materials in the hands of those who need it most. Because of you, we continue to replace fear with faith in the hearts of Christians around the world. We will continue to see prophecy come to pass at an even swifter pace. We need your support. Your donation of any amount enables us to continue to broadcast and be a voice in the ever-growing censored media. To become a partner or give a one-time gift, visit endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME right now. That's 800-363-8463. Go online now. Visit endtime.com.
Have you had a longing to visit the cities where Jesus healed, ministered, and taught every day? Judy and I would like to invite you to travel to the wonderful land of Israel. Experience the Word of God in vivid color while walking down the roads of the Holy Land with us.
When you are ready to experience Israel, we recommend you travel with Endtime Ministries. You will not only experience historical and present-day Israel, you will also learn about the prophesied future to come. It's as if we traveled back in time to visit a different era and discovered ourselves in an ancient time. The tour is very well organized, the accommodations are first class, and the food is delicious. If you have ever had a desire to visit Israel, there is no better time than now. Ann from Colorado.
To sign up to receive your Experience Israel 2019 packet, call Adrian or Jana at 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com. We can't wait to experience Israel with you.
So concerning this Palestinian-Jordanian alliance that's been formed, it said the first steps were taken only days ago, and it comes according to the report. A senior Fatah official said the move was because the Jordanians and the Palestinians fear that within the framework of the regional peace agreement, Donald Trump's deal of the century, responsibility for the Temple Mount will be transferred to a joint Arab-Islamic council. Now, remember, some of these people have probably been shared some of what's in the peace agreement. So these are some of the things going on behind the scenes, and it says that they think there's a possibility that it would grant Saudi Arabia official status around the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But in contrast, a senior Arab diplomat told the Hebrew Daily that the move was made with the agreement of Jordan and Saudi Arabia and was intended to soften Palestinian resistance to the peace plan. So if you read the news, there's people that are pushing for it, people that are pushing against it, and then you can read another news source where they're saying, hey, the Palestinians are softening a little bit to it. So again, we just have to see how it all plays out. At this point, Irvin Baxter and myself, we don't know yet. I mean, could this be the peace deal that starts the final 7 years? You say, well, what are you talking about here? If you don't know, Daniel 9:27 prophesies that the Antichrist will confirm a covenant with many for a final 7-year period. And that accord is going to be the confirmation of God's covenant with Abraham that Israel would always have a homeland in the promised land. That's all the way back Genesis 15:18. That agreement that was prophesied 2,500 years ago when Daniel was in captivity, Babylonian captivity, that's exactly what we're talking about here almost daily on End of the Age. There's a peace agreement that's being rolled out. You say, well, they've been working on a peace agreement for several decades now. I understand that, but this one's different. Donald Trump is coming in with a whole new approach with leverage bars, with a regional agreement, not just the Palestinians and the Israelis. He realized early on that, hey, that's not going to work. So he went for the regional agreement, pulling all of these Arab nations in with them. So it's going to turn out a lot different than it has from John Kerry and previous administrations, and the Obama administration with John Kerry being the negotiator and all of them all the way back. So whole new ball game. This is what was prophesied, or a peace agreement was prophesied back in Daniel chapter 9. So the fulfillment of that prophecy is going to be the signing of a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. And that agreement has to do 4 things. Number 1, it's got to establish a Palestinian state in Judea or the West Bank. Number 2, it's going to allow the Jewish settlers that live out there in Judea to remain in their homes and live as a Jewish minority in that new Palestinian state. 3, it's going to place the Temple Mount under an internationally supervised sharing arrangement, allowing Jews and Muslims to worship there. And number 4, it's going to allow Israel to build the 3rd temple on the Temple Mount. Very important. If a peace agreement was signed tomorrow that did not have those characteristics, it wouldn't be the one. So it's very important that you understand those 4 things. Now, when we see the news, when this peace agreement's put out, if they were to sign one, and it has those 4 characteristics, that would be the prophesied agreement. And then we would know assuredly that the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ has begun. We follow that thing very, very closely because it's the prophecy with a date on it. We're not setting the date. The Bible does. Daniel 9:27, the Antichrist will confirm a covenant with many for a 7-year period. So once that peace agreement is signed, we know that starts the final 7 years. It's Daniel's 70th week. And so that's why we watch it very, very, very closely. Now, beyond that, the Jerusalem Post was full of articles. Israel National News, I mean, they're just full of them about this peace agreement. And the regional aspirations that the Trump administration has. So, and Netanyahu. The Jerusalem Post also stated that Oman, the foreign minister, it said no normalization with Israel, without the Palestinian state. So we know that Netanyahu had just visited Oman in trying to gain his own regional situation there, and not necessarily sign documents of agreement and this, that, and the other, but just to open up good foreign relations with different Arab nations there. And he's had some success. But the leader of the foreign minister of Oman has said, no, not without the Palestinian state. So he said yesterday that the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state is a condition for the normalization with Israel. So there's a lot of things going on here that are kind of unprecedented. Different nations and things that are Netanyahu's been able to deal with over the last couple years, really, in trying to garner a peace in the Middle East. And he's kind of been working along the lines of Trump, saying, look, I mean, that we're not just focused on the Palestinians here. We're kind of going regionally and trying to bring everybody to the table. So that way some of these Arab nations could influence the Palestinians. You see it's totally different than the roadmap for peace or what the Obama administration tried to do, and even further back. So on top of all of that, like I said, there's so many articles, there's no way I could do them all. The Jerusalem Post also said that the Palestinians say Israel is playing with fire by closing the Temple Mount gate. Now we'll get off into some of the details of the situation that's going on in Israel and pertaining to kind of setting the stage, if you will, for a peace agreement. The Palestinian Authority on Monday warned that Israel was playing with fire after clashes erupted at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem over the closure of the Golden Gate site, which is also known as the Gate of Mercy. You know, the sealed gates, the Eastern Gate. They closed that to Muslim worshipers. And the PA also accused Israel of waging a war on Islam and called on the intervention of the international community. Now, that's very important, because let me go down through here and I'll tell you why in just a moment. Remember that they called on the international community to solve the issue. It said that Palestinians claim that Israel is planning to turn the area into a prayer site for the Jews. You understand the Temple Mount, the Eastern Gate, there's a big section right inside of there. The PA is claiming, which whether it's true or not, I don't know for sure. I'll be there in a couple months, I can tell you. But they're planning to turn that into a prayer site for the Jews. The site, which once housed the offices of the Islamic Heritage Committee, was closed by the Jerusalem police in 2003 after it was revealed that the committee was involved in political activities. A little bit of shady dealings going on. So the Israeli police said, we're done with that. In 2017, a court issued an order to keep the site closed until further notice. But I want you to note, they appealed to the international community for help there. Now, we know that in a future peace agreement, the Temple Mount is going to be under an internationally supervised sharing arrangement. And you can see the sharing arrangement already taking shape as more and more of the Jews ascend to the Temple Mount, and what's going on here with Israel of course, the Israel police control the policing of this, the security there. All of the police that you see with the AK-47s or whatever they carry, those are all Israeli police. You would never see a Muslim carrying a gun up on the Temple Mount. All of the police there with the guns, those are all Israeli police. So they allow the Muslim walk to control it, let's say religiously, but at the end of the day, the military part of it is Israeli police. Well, they thought there was some shady doings going on with the right inside the Eastern Gate, so they blocked that off and said, now you don't have access to that anymore. Well, of course, the Palestinians are all up in arms over that, and there's lots of conflict going on in Israel as we speak over that. And my point really for all of this was they asked the international community to solve it. Rather than go to another intifada or whatever and start another holy war, they went to the international community. Well, we know in the future, this peace agreement prophesied in Scripture that from Revelation 11, 1 and 2, that the Temple Mount's going to be shared and that it will be probably placed under an internationally supervised sharing arrangement, just like the caves down in Machpelah. And so we're watching the ongoing fulfillment of this, kind of setting the stage for a peace agreement in the future where an Israeli temple, they call it a synagogue, would be built up on the Temple Mount just north of the Dome of the Rock. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is in the south. Dome of the Rock, the big gold dome. Just north of that, there's an 8 or 10 acre plot that the Third Temple could and probably will be built on, placing it under a sharing arrangement, an internationally supervised sharing arrangement. When I read this article, I thought, man, the stage is being set for this. So it's very important that you understand these prophecies prophesied about 2,500 years ago. We're watching the ongoing fulfillment of them as we speak. And we want you guys to know about it because we're all living through this together. And this could wrap up pretty soon. Now, when I say pretty soon, I mean if it was 15 years from now. I'm not giving dates or nothing like that, but I'm saying 15 years from now would be nothing in my lifetime. And so we're watching all of these things converge. And I'll be honest with you, I started working with my Irvin Baxter here at Endtime almost 14 years ago now. And things were rolling along, but they weren't as fast as they are now. Honestly, we try to keep up with everything. That's impossible. There's no way I could get to every news story that shows the ongoing fulfillment of prophecy. Right now, Irvin and I have to pick and choose what we come on the radio with because there's no way we can get to all of it. So I hope you understand that things are escalating really quickly, the fulfillment of Bible prophecy, and it's really speeding up. And I'm not trying to sensationalize anything. I'm just saying I'm watching this from the time I started here to where we're at now. Things are really speeding up, the convergence of all the prophecies at the same time. Now, the next story, International Israel National News, that Zippy Livni said that she's a member of the Knesset. If you don't know who she is, she's retiring from politics. She's been working in the peace negotiations for Israel for a long, long time now. But now she's retiring from politics. And she said on the way out the door, she gave a speech, and she said that back with John Kerry and them were negotiating for the Obama administration, that Netanyahu agreed to negotiations based on the 1967 borders. Now, if you know anything about Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian, the PLO, or the Palestinian Liberation Organization, that he said no negotiations except for based on the 1967 borders. And so when she said that Netanyahu was willing to negotiate with Kerry and them on 67 borders, now I've got to be honest with you. I don't know if this is true or not. This is what it's saying in Israel National News, which is a very reputable thing. She might just be saying this on the way out the door. We'll know pretty soon when we get off into the negotiations with this peace agreement and the things revealed with the Donald Trump administration. We'll kind of know where he's at and where he stands on everything. Because Zippy Livni could just say, hey, Netanyahu said this, she's been against him politically, and so she could be saying this on the way out the door. But if it's true, it could be very important when it comes to these future negotiations. Zippy Livni claimed that Netanyahu, during the talks spearheaded by John Kerry, that he agreed to hold negotiations on the basis of uprooting territories. And she claimed in an interview with Channel 13 News that Netanyahu agreed to hold negotiations on the basis of uprooting these territories, and that he agreed during negotiations with Kerry, which obviously was a former U.S. President Barack Obama. You guys know what he did with the negotiations. That he not only agreed, but drafted every letter in a document that says that the basis for negotiations would be on 1967 lines with necessary changes. So if that's true, remember, a future peace agreement is going to be established with a Palestinian state in Judea, which is the West Bank now. You would consider that. That's what when we refer to modern day West Bank, we're talking about Judea in the Bible. And we know that there's going to be a two-state solution created. We don't know if it's going to be on the 67 borders. 67 borders are, that's indefensible for Israel. That leaves them about 9 miles wide at the belly, and that's simply, there's no way. But it says that if what she's saying is true in this article, he was saying, hey, I'll go back to 67 borders. I question that. I think it would be more maybe 1967 borders with land swaps to have defensible borders. I think that could be. But again, we'll have to see. They're talking about things that could come out in this future peace agreement. So those are the things we'll have to watch. So you say, well, the 67 borders, explain that to me. What do you mean by 67 borders? Okay, so on November 29th, 1947, the United Nations voted to create the nation of Israel and the nation of Palestine. And they envisioned Jerusalem itself as an international city, not belonging to either one. So the Israelis accepted that partition, but the Arabs rejected it, and Israel declared independence on May 14th, 1948. On May 15th, 1948, 5 Arab nations launched a war against just a real little sliver, that little nation of Israel, and it ignited the War of Independence. When the Armistice Treaty was signed in 1949, Israel controlled more land than what the United Nations had given them originally in that partition plan. And then in 1967, and they controlled that land from that time, from the War of Independence all the way up till 1967. In 1967, Israel was invaded again by an army of Arab states led by Egypt. Israel defeated all the neighbors who fought against her and it was called the 6 Days War in 1967, and they gained substantial territory, including the West Bank in 1967 and the Gaza Strip, which they've given back now. Ariel Sharon gave that back, and the Sinai Peninsula all the way down in Egypt, and most importantly in East Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. From 1967. So the 1967 border was what they controlled up to that point in the 6 Days War until they were invaded, and then they drove the Jordanians all the way back across the Jordan River to what they control now. And so the 67 borders would push all that back to where they were at in 1967, that small partition of land, which again I said is indefensible. So it's very important that we know what's going on in the news. And when we get back from the break here, I'll finish telling you a little bit about this, and then I'm going to get to many more prophecies. I'm going to cover as many as I can: world government, socialism in the United States. So join me when I come back, and if you need to catch the rest of the program, go to endtime.com and watch the archive program for free.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter. This book by Irvin's grandson provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your relationship with God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Get your book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
If ever people needed to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctor's offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and get your subscription today.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
Okay, you guys, so I've got a ton of information left. So let me announce a couple conferences Irvin Baxter is going to go to, and then I'll get off into it and get as many as I can done before the end of the program. Irvin Baxter is going to be at the Age of Deception Conference, and it's going to be from April 4 through 7, and that's at the Hickory Metro Convention Center, Hickory, North Carolina. And to register, go to thevoiceofevangelism.com. You can register there for that conference. That's April 4 through 7. Irvin Baxter is going to be one of many speakers there. And then he's going to be at the Hear the Watchman Conference, and that's at the Hilton DFW Executive Conference Center, March 28th through the 31st. And to register for more information, go to hearthewatchman.com and use the promotional code Endtimes with an S 20. And again, there's going to be many speakers there as well. So to register for either of those conferences, like I say, Irvin's going to be one of many speakers that's going to be there. If you want to join him at one of those conferences, go to thevoiceofevangelism.com or hearthewatchman.com. And you can get more information and register for those conferences at that point. So in continuing on with this really quick, we know that a Palestinian state's going to be created because Jesus prophesied in Matthew 24, verses 15 through 21, that the West Bank or Judea would be under enemy control during the final 7 years before Armageddon. He said, when you therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea, or the modern day West Bank, flee into the mountains. Now, this is a prophecy about our time. Jesus was prophesying in Matthew 24 during the Olivet Discourse about 2,000 years in the future. What's going to be the sign of your coming in of the end of the age? This is the time he's prophesying about. And he said, when you see the abomination of desolation occur, let them which be in Judea, which would be the West Bank at that time, let them flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down, take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And then in verse 21 it says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be again. So it's very important that we understand nearly the whole world says the only plausible situation to the Palestinian problem is to create a Palestinian state in the West Bank. And the Palestinians say there's going to be no peace without a two-state solution. Even Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu endorsed the two-state solution in the famous Bar-Ilan speech back in 2009. So you say, well, what about all the settlers that live out there? Well, they're the ones who live in that area. They'll become the new, that's to become the new Palestinian state. They're going to be allowed to stay if they want to. And they will live as a Jewish minority in the new Palestinian state. So if what Zippy Livni has said is true and Netanyahu is willing to give more than we thought, the deal of the century, soon to be proposed by Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt, it might just produce an agreement which starts the final 7 years to the second coming of Jesus Christ and the Battle of Armageddon. Like I say, we don't know what's in the agreement at this point. They have, it appears, released some of the information. We know some of it, but when it all boils down to it, we need to read the agreement. And it's going to be presented in just the next couple months or so. After the Israeli elections, they'll be freed up in Israel to dive off into this, and the Trump administration is waiting for the right time. So the Bible prophesies, once this peace agreement is signed, you say, well, is it going to be the Trump one? I don't know for sure. I mean, we're following these things as they happen. It could be the Trump administration. They're doing things that's never been done. It's unprecedented. It could be one by Emmanuel Macron or Vladimir Putin. I don't know who it's going to be for sure, but I know the Bible says there will be one, so you can hang your hat on that. The prophecies always come to pass. But the one coming out, the deal of the century by Donald Trump that's fixing to be presented, these guys have major leverage bars that none of the previous administrations have had. So it's quite possible this could be the one. Only time will tell. Now, let's switch gears. LifeSite News. Let's get into a little world government. LifeSite News reported that Pope Francis expressed solidarity with globalists, those that believe in a world government, the Globalist Summit's Sustainable Development Goals. So, Pope Francis sent a video message of encouragement to the World Government Summit taking place in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, last week. The World Government Summit, as in all globalist venues, they have the objective to show that there are global problems that no country can solve on its own in order to promote global solutions. They're promoting, it's called the World Government Summit, everybody. So you know what the goal is, world government. It's getting all these nations to buy into it. So the World Government Summit calls itself a global platform dedicated to shaping the future of governments worldwide. That's a lot, big old long sentence. I could shorten it down to 2 words, world government. So the Pope said, I believe it is possible, but only if we grow together. In other words, to solve all these problems, only if we grow together alongside one another with openness and respect, willing to take on everyone's problems, which are the problems of each person in the global village. Now, look at the global terminology. Remember, we're at the World Government Summit. So one of the main objectives of the World Government Summit is the implementation of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The goals make up the international community's 15-year socialistic blueprint. You say, Pope Francis is supporting that? 110%, believe me. It's their socialistic blueprint of global governance for every person on the earth. I'm not going to get way deep into that, but just trust me. I went over it many times on the program. Irvin's went over it. And they've named this blueprint Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. You say, well, hold on a minute. Isn't Ocasio-Cortez's new Green Deal supposed to be completed by 2030? It's going right along with these Sustainable Development Goals. So the goals are a universal policy agenda designed to convert the nations of the world into a global community governed by the United Nations. In plain, simple terms, you can read all the hundreds of pages of brochures that they put out on it, but that's what you're going to get from it at the end of the day. It's global governance. And in bringing his approval to the Dubai Summit, Pope Francis is directly supporting the Sustainable Development Goals. And together with the supernatural objectives of the goal of global governance, the World Government Summit so clearly has stated that this is what we want to do. Pope Francis went on to say, we cannot really speak of sustainable development without solidarity. We could even say that the good, if it is not the common good, in other words, the group more important than the individual, the common good, that it's actually not good at all. So Pope Francis is in full support of a global government. Now, many of you know that the Bible foretells that in the end time, the world religion led by the false prophet will form an alliance with the Antichrist and his world government to rule the world. Revelation 13, 11 through 15 states this, and I quote, And I, John, beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake like a dragon. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, or the Antichrist and his world governing system. That's what the world religion is going to do. It's going to garner the belief system of the whole world to worship and pledge allegiance to this Antichrist and his world government. This is being set up as we speak, everybody. You can see the stage being set for it. Whose deadly wound was healed. And it says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. And he said to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, and which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast, that it should be killed. So the Antichrist, the false prophet, is going to form an alliance with the Antichrist in the end time. It's by grand design. This is Satan's efforts to run the world and establish his kingdom in the earth in the end time. All of Revelation 13 is devoted to that. Well, then when you jump over to Revelation 17:3, it states, So he carried me away in the Spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit on a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. In Revelation 17, the woman is the false church, the false world religious system led by the Catholic Church. You guys know what we teach and what the Bible teaches. And the seven-headed, ten-horned beast is the world government. It's red, so it's a socialistic entity. Well, you can see that. The United Nations is socialistic. And the world religious system and the world government are already forming alliances. We're watching it happen. There's so much documentation on that, there's no way I could cover it in 50 programs. So from these scriptures, we know the false prophet will form an alliance with the socialistic kingdom of the Antichrist. Now, and we've seen that happening at this World Government Summit. So the next article I want to get into, and before I do though, you understand what's going on here in the United States. Because the powers of socialism that have swept the world really are trying to have their tentacles surround the United States and to draw us in. We're the last bastion of freedom on the planet. Israel, a lot of Israel is socialistic, even. And so, but they're not going to, we know from the Bible, they're not going to conform with the world government in the end time. We don't want socialism to come here to the United States. It would destroy our nation. I know that a lot of people are being taught in college and in high school that socialism's a good thing. And, you're going to get free college and free this, that, and the other. No. Socialism's the absolute worst thing that could happen in the United States. If socialism was implemented here in the United States, we would be a Venezuela in a few years. You say, we've got too much production and, we're the strongest nation on the planet. Socialism would destroy our nation. Believe me, it's destroyed every nation where it's been fully implemented. The promise of socialism that it's going to be this great euphoric situation in the Garden of Eden and all this other stuff. Show me a place where that's happened. It's never happened. Look at Venezuela and Cuba and all these different places. There's a guy that Donald Trump was talking about that escaped out of Venezuela, and he was saying, hey, this Green New Deal is crazy. You're crazy if you vote for that. Because in a few years, you're going to be right where Venezuela's at. And I totally agree with him. If you know anything about socialism, you'll know that's where we're headed. You say, but they're promising on all kind of free stuff. Nothing is free, everybody. Nothing. There's no such thing as free lunch. There's always strings attached. And because if I supply you with lunch today, I can keep you from having lunch tomorrow. So it's very important that you understand socialism. So I'll get off into socialism in the United States when we get back from this break. And there's really a lot of things going on that you may not know about, and you're not getting taught in college, and you may never have been taught it.
Many Christians admit end-time Bible prophecy is very complex and difficult to understand, and for some, a little bit scary. But what if you could understand Bible prophecy? What if you could know what will happen and how the United States will play a key role during end-time events? When you call today and get Understanding the End Time DVD curriculum, you can have peace about what is to come while understanding the prophetic events that appear in our headlines every day. When you call or go online to endtime.com and order, you'll learn the answer to the biggest prophecy question of all. Will the rapture take place, and when will it happen? This 14-part DVD series is the definitive end-time prophecy Bible study available. And for this limited time, you can get it for just $149. Don't miss this special offer. Understanding the End Time. Call now, 1-800-363-8463. That's 1-800-END-TIME. Or go to endtime.com today.
So I know it's alarming to people that are my age, 40, 50, 60 years old. I'm 50 years old. That to think of socialism here in the United States. Because to me, socialism, bad word. Don't want anything to do with it. But to kids that have just coming out of high school and college and things like that, when they hear, hey, I've got college loans and things like that, student loans, and the government might pay for that or help me out with all of that. And, or the kids coming out of high school going into college, I might get free college and free this, that, and the other. Socialism always promises the sky in the beginning, but it always ends up to bigger, bigger, bigger government running everything, and nothing's free at the end. You can get to where Venezuela, where you're basically handed a little bit of food every day and you stand in long lines for food. So that's way off. That's where you want to get to there. Implement socialism here in the United States. Now, I want to read to you something from the Communist Party USA, because I'm going to get into an article here in a moment. Bernie Sanders has just said he's running for president, okay? And I want to read you a statement from him. But this is straight from the Communist Party USA website. It says the Communist Party USA works in coalition with the labor movement, the peace movement, the student movement, organizations fighting for equality and social justice. Remember the term social justice. The Communist Party USA is fighting for social justice, the environmental movement, the immigrants' rights group, and the health care for all. Have you heard that in anybody's campaign? Health care for all? That's what the Communist USA is fighting for. And they state, we believe that the American people can replace capitalism with a system that puts people before profit. What's that system called? This is the Communist Party USA. Socialism. Now, I just heard where Senator Bernie Sanders says that he's running for president. He announced today. Well, a shocker. I knew he was going to run for president. You guys knew he was going to run for president. But Bernie, obviously, he's a 77-year-old self-described democratic socialist. He said in an email to his supporters, and I'm quoting, he said, our campaign is not only about defeating Donald Trump. He said, our campaign is about transforming our country and creating a government based on the principles of, here we go, economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. So Bernie Sanders is fighting for social justice. You say, well, hold on a minute. That's the same thing they said on the Communist Party USA website. We're fighting for social justice, to end capitalism and implement socialism. That's exactly what Bernie Sanders is fighting for. So I have a question for you. If I ask you to define social justice, could you do that? Think about it right now. What is social justice? You hear it all the time, and it actually sounds good. We like justice. And we like to be social. So, hey, social justice must be a good thing, right? You've ever heard of Prager University? Ever watched any of those 5-minute videos on YouTube, Prager University? Well, Prager University states, and I thought this was great, so I wanted to share it. It states the social justice means that freedom must be sacrificed. Listen at that. Freedom must be sacrificed in order to redistribute income. Social justice is about the state amassing ever-increasing power, in other words, bigger government to do good things. Well, that sounds okay, good things. The problem is, the good things are whatever the champions of social justice decide they are that week. And it always comes down to economic redistribution. Social justice is all about the redistribution of wealth, from the haves to the have-nots. Steal from them that have, give to them that have not. Now think about it. Wealth redistribution. And it's the major plank of socialism. And even in the United States, the United Nations put out the International Forum for Social Development, and it says that social justice in an open world. This is put out by the United Nations. It says the role of the United Nations states this, and I'm quoting, social justice is not possible without strong and coherent redistributive policies conceived and implemented by public agencies. It's redistribution by wealth by the government. How many of you would like the government saying, you've got too much money, we're going to take from you and give to those who don't have as much as you? How would you like that? equal out the playing field. When they talk about equality, they're not talking about equality for everyone. And at the end of the day, think about this. They're not for equality. They really don't care about that. It's all about control, because somebody's got to control taking the wealth and giving it to somebody else. That's what they want. Control, control, control. Socialism, communism, all these isms that fall under collectivism, it's all about control at the end of the day. It's all about wealth redistribution, which is the major drive behind ideology of socialism. So Donald Trump is fighting the surge of socialism in America right now. So consider this. You say, well, what's really going on? I think you can kind of see that Donald Trump trying to protect capitalism. He's a capitalist. It's the American dream. Somebody like Average Joe, who wanted to work hard enough, take risk, and work himself to death, could get to be a millionaire. Most millionaires in America today are self-made. It was not handed to them by their parents. That's the American dream. If you want to be a success and work hard and go for it, you can make it here in America. Come from nothing and make it. In a socialist country, there's a few elite that are sitting at the top pulling everybody's strings. So consider this. Most of the world is already socialistic. All the way back in 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution, it took over the Soviet Union and continued until World War II. So in 1942, communism only ruled one country, the Soviet Union, and only 6% of the world's population. However, in just a short 20 years, by 1962, communism ruled 50% of the world's population. At the end of World War II, at Yalta, many of you will know that the Soviet Union was given control over all of Eastern Europe. They took control of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Romania, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, all of the Baltic nations. That's why we speculate that the Baltic nations might be a bone of contention between Russia and the European Union, because they're part of the European Union now. They used to be under control of Russia. And then, of course, East Germany. So, additionally, in 1949, communism swept through China. And by 1962, half the world's population was under the iron heel of international communism. And it appeared as if communism was taking over the world. And that's exactly what their aspirations are. Think about it. The United Nations is socialistic. So anybody that's going to fight world government is going to fight against socialism. Get this. In the United States of America, we have the Communist Party USA. We have the Democratic Socialist of America trying to implement, I just read from you from the Communist Party USA's website, they're trying to implement socialism here in the United States. That's what they're trying to do. Eradicate, abolish capitalism, implement socialism. So, and then I want you to note, I think I mentioned this on the radio the other day, but you need to hear this. The 6 declared and potential presidential candidates that signed up as co-sponsors of the Green New Deal, which is socialistic, Senator Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, Jeff Merkley, and then, of course, now Bernie Sanders just entered the race. So they all are pro-Green New Deal. And the Green New Deal is a call for socialism in America. Think about it. According to the Town Hall, wrote a great article. The real goal of the Green New Deal is to impose a series of radical socialistic programs and policies that would dramatically increase the size and power of the federal government. Remember, I said social justice, bigger government, redistributing the wealth. And it would cause immense harm to the U.S. economy, this Green New Deal, run up the national debt by trillions of dollars. Of course, they don't know how they're going to pay for it. And, of course, Ocasio-Cortez in the Green New Deal, she proposed ending the use of fossil fuels in nearly every industry, including farms and manufacturing, in just 10 years. So, at the end of the day, socialism is trying to be, there are many people, very influential people, that want to implement socialism here in the United States. Now, I could go on and on about the Green New Deal. And I don't want to spend a ton of time there. I went over a lot of it the other day in a program that I did on Ocasio-Cortez and what she was trying to do. But it's socialistic principles. The Green New Deal is, the reason it's called green, it's based around the propaganda coming out by the United Nations that human-induced global warming leads to climate change, which is a hoax. And that's why it's called the Green New Deal. She's trying to implement some of the Paris climate agreement that Donald Trump pulled the United States out of. A lot of that's what this Green New Deal is all based on. Going away from fossil fuel-driven plants and manufacturing plants and going to all this renewable wind and sun power and this, that, and the other, costing trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And so it's all a socialistic plan. It's bigger government running American citizens and implementing socialistic principles here in the United States. And you've heard Donald Trump fighting against that. In the speech that he just gave in Miami, I've got some of it in my notes here. There's no way I'll get to it, but I went through all the different points. If you want a copy of my notes, I'll send you a copy. I've got it all laid out, but all the different points that Donald Trump went over in his Miami speech about Venezuela and socialism, and it's destroyed Venezuela. And yet he's saying, and they're trying to do the same thing here in the United States, and he's fighting against it. And the reason I wanted to bring it up today is because many of you understand, if you follow what we teach and what the Bible teaches, really, we're just sharing that, is that the Bible says the world government in the end time, which is propped up by Satan. The Bible says in Revelation 13:2 that the dragon give him his seat, power, and great authority, this Antichrist and this world government. It's going to be socialistic. Remember I said earlier that this world religion was sitting on a scarlet-colored, seven-headed, tin-horned beast. It's going to be a socialistic entity. Satan's kingdom in the end time is going to be a socialistic, communistic control mechanism is what it is. And they're trying to implement that here in the United States. And that's why we talk about socialism all the time. We don't want that here in the United States. You say, well, is capitalism always good? No, it's not. If they use it for greed and monopolies and all this other stuff, no. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's made America what it is. That and number one, God. But number two, a capitalistic society. We talk about it because I don't want socialism in the United States of America.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of Endtime Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with Endtime Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.